Well, we want to venture into a discussion with our panelists. Of course, international news will come much later into the course of the program. And of course, we know about the intensified political activities in the past few weeks linked to President Uhuru Kenyatta's succession, which has threatened to divide the country once again, only a few months after last year's general election. Now, at the center of it is Deputy President William Ruto, who has been traversing the country under the guise of conducting fundraisers or initiating and supervising development projects, but actually rolling out his campaign ahead of the 2022 elections. The net result is that this has started polarizing voters. We've argued before that this is premature and unnecessarily creates tension in a nation still recovering from the aftermath of the tumultuous elections last year. Pointedly, the early campaigns had threatened to undermine the government's development agenda and particularly derail the ongoing crackdown on corruption. Now, Mr. Ruto has declared that the campaigns will stop and instead pledged to concentrate on pushing the government's programs of improving the lives of fellow Kenyans. We hope he means his words and that his retinue of sycophants will also stop the high decibel noise about the Uhuru succession. Notably, some of Mr. Ruto's key supporters are taken to politicizing the fight against corruption, opposing the proposed lifestyle audit and the sacking of suspected perpetrators of the vice, arguing that all those measures were intended to besmirk their man and wreck his chances of ascending to the high office. All this must stop. Of course, we continue with our conversation here this morning. Allow me to introduce our panelists who are already in studio with us to take us through this. A lot of activity we had last week as far as the political front is concerned. And we have with us this morning Senator, or the former Senator of Murang'a. This is Kembi Gitura. Also, we do have with us the global leader of Kenya Diaspora Alliance. This is Dr. Shem Ochuodho. And also we do have with us as well Samuel Poghisio, who is the Senator from West Pokot. So we also would love to hear from you this morning. You can head over to a Twitter handle, which is AM Live in TV. AM Live in TV is a profile name on Facebook as well. Let us hear what you have to say, and we shall be sharing your sentiments as well much later in the course of the program. For now, let's just hear from our panelists this morning, and we'd love to hear. Let's just begin with you, Kembi Gitura. I like the new look. Yeah, this is the new Barry White from Murang'a. Kembi Gitura.
It's called rebranding.
Rebranding.
Yes, rebranding is the word.
Good to see you after a long while.
Well, I'm very happy to be back here at the
Yes.
bar.
Thank you
for inviting me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Right, so we can see a lot of activity has been on the front. Tomorrow also there's a big day, or it's a big day for the Jubilee Party in the State House. The President has also cancelled his meeting at the African Union Summit to concentrate on issues, I think, big on his agenda as well, that really maybe merits his attention. But we were actually shocked to see so many of the former MPs, especially from the central region, gathering and meeting up with the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. And you were one of them, alongside Kabando and many others as well. And you are supporting the lifestyle audit that the president has proposed that should happen in this country. First of all, this gesture really coming from the left side, and of course seeing a collection of you coming together to support this initiative. Why? Why now?
Well, thank you. I've been on this show for some time in the past.
Yes.
And I've been on shows like this for very, very many times. In the last time that I was in Senate,
yes,
and even before. And anybody who knows the position I've taken,
yes,
is that I've talked about the need to curb to end corruption in this country.
Yes.
That has been my theme. And I've said this continuously in the past, and I continue to say it. So when I talked about, and I talked about lifestyle audits in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that it was very, very important that public servants should go through this, particularly if they are suspected of any improprieties in dealing with public funds.
Yes.
So I'm not saying anything new. And if you recall, because I'm sure it's on record here at the nation, if you recall, I came at a barrage of very, very rude statements from a number of leaders, particularly some governors, because they thought I was targeting them.
Yes.
I was not targeting them or anybody at that time, neither am I targeting anybody at this time. So when the President, His Excellency the President, talked about it, I felt very good and I felt vindicated, because if we have a follow-through on these lifestyle audits, then what it means is that we can start at least to appear to be fighting corruption, which is a position I've taken continuously. So for me, it's very, very important. obviously people will say that they're being targeted. And if you have nothing to hide, I do not know why you should feel that you are being targeted. If you wanted to do a lifestyle audit on me, personally as Kembi Gitura, I would welcome you.
Yes.
Because like I've said in the past, it is like Kenya Revenue Authority is like the income tax department. If they think you're fiddling with your books, and they think you're not making the correct returns, like we are going to see now that the returns were returned on 30th of June,
yes,
then they come to you. They don't ask you for permission. They come and do what they call an in-depth investigation into your accounts. They go through it page by page, word by word, figure by figure, and they take access to all your books of accounts.
Yes.
And finally they come up with whether you fiddled or whether you told the truth or you did not. And they call that in-depth. Now, in-depth is done in random. It is in a random way. And I have said that this lifestyle audit, in my view, can be also done randomly, because always it's the same people being mentioned, the same names all the time. And if the suspicions are coming out against the same persons, I mean, why not? Why can't they offer themselves if they're innocent? If they cannot, if they don't want to do it, why can't the EACC, or I hope it has the capacity, why can't the EACC, which is mandated by the law,
yes,
to do in-depth or lifestyle audits on these people? What have they been doing? Why are they waiting for the president to do their work for them when they have it in the law, and they could have done it? They can do it now, and they can do it whether systematically or randomly, so that at least we start to see that it is being done, it is possible, and Kenyans will have faith. But when people bring in 2022 politics, or politics of succession into in-depth, into lifestyle audits, in my view, if you ask me, it's ridiculous, because it's the same song. They will say the same thing with a view to scuttling the effort to curbing corruption. When you see people start ethnicizing and tribalizing issues like this, they want to go back to the tribal cocoons or to their ethnic backgrounds, so that the bigger picture is forgotten. I've been praying, and I'm continue to pray, to see to it that the president has a follow-through on this, and that these political sideshows are not going to sidestep or to scuttle the effort. Because if it is done, if there is no follow-through, then Kenyans will lose faith. And there is nothing as bad as when a populace lose faith in something so good like this one, because you know it, and my colleagues here know it, that corruption alone takes away 30% of GDP. Now, our GDP is quite high. And if you think about 30% of our GDP and think what it can do to improve health facilities,
yes,
to improve health provision, to improve schools for our children, to improve the infrastructure, then you can see what the Pope meant when he was here in 2016, I think it was, when he said that we must finish corruption, because it's impoverishing us as a nation, as a people, and it is making people lose faith in the systems that they have invested in. But so for me, it's very important.
It's very important.
And for me, and those were some of the things we discussed when we went to have a meeting with Right Honorable Raila Odinga last week, some of us leaders from Mount Kenya region. Now, some people are saying that we are discussing 2022 succession. We were not. And we did not even touch on succession politics at all. And I can say that from where I'm sitting, and anybody can challenge me on that. We didn't discuss succession politics. We went through, we wanted to understand what was the handshake, what did the handshake mean from the perspective of Right Honorable Raila Odinga. And that is what he was taking us through, because we have an interest in this country. And that handshake has brought some calm in this country, and this is what we want to see continue.
But looking at the retinue of the legislators, the former legislators we had there, it seems that a collection of them were people who had a special umbrage with the nominations that was done for the Jubilee Party, prior to the 2017 general election. And so they think maybe also this had to do with the Deputy President himself. The 2017
politics and elections are behind us.
Yes.
And we must now look forward. Yeah? If you play golf, then you know that if you lose the last hole, you don't keep thinking about it. You think about the next hole if you want to win. So you don't keep thinking about what has happened. Of course, history has its part in all these things. But, true, we are former members of Parliament, National Assembly, and the Senate. True, I can read the papers here. They are saying that we were rejected by the people. That's the biggest nonsense I've read. My colleagues here have been to Parliament. They have been out of Parliament. They are leaders, and they continue to be leaders whether they're out of Parliament or not. And the position I take, the position they take, Whether it's only one person who listened to me, that one counts in politics. The only person who can talk about being rejected is somebody who has not been to elective politics, and therefore they do not know what they are talking about. Because my view is that I talk as a person who's been elected in the past,
yes,
and I want to believe that I still have a role to play in seeing how this country can move forward. And I reckon that's the reason you've invited me to this program,
yes,
well knowing that I'm not a sitting member of parliament.
Thank you very much. Let's hear from Dr. Shem Ochuodho. Looking at this development so far, you think this is also, you know, auguring well for the legislators within the Jubilee Party? It seems it is driving a wedge, the lifestyle audit, and now maybe there's a crucial meeting which is being held tomorrow to try and mend, you know, the fences or the rift and the frosted relationship that is developing within Jubilee right now.
Debarl, first, perhaps to be fair to my fellow colleagues, Senator
Kembi Gitura.
Senator Kembi, and the other colleagues, this is not the first time they are talking about bringing the country together. I recall, and a friend of mine in Nation Media keeps reminding me, you know, Kenya Diaspora Alliance was the first, when things were very hot, to call for dialogue between the two principals, the president and the former prime minister. On the 1st of October, Nation Media carried it on the 2nd of October. 2 days later, the Western ambassadors also called upon the two principals to talk. A week later, the former central leaders, led by Waheshimiwa, Kabando, Kembi, and the others, Kabogo, Mathakarua, and the like, who appeared at Norfolk. We now call them the Norfolk Group. They also did the same. And I remember at that time it was very unpopular. I recall Mheshimiwa Kabando's effigy was burnt in Nyeri because people didn't want to hear about dialogue. I'm saying that to vindicate them because they have been very consistent about saying, look, let's talk, this country belongs to all of us. We need to bring it together. Having said that, Debarl, in terms of what's happening in Jubilee, it's hard to say. It doesn't surprise me. Clearly, there is a problem, but I don't think it's a bad problem because democracy means that people can take positions they wish to, they like, without being coerced into a particular direction. But that having been said, Kenyans need to own this handshake process that the president and former prime minister assented to on the 9th of March. Own it. I don't want to use the word hijack, but Kenyans need to hijack and own it to be theirs because it's the only way to turn this country around. Because they are talking of national ethos, cohesion, they are talking about shared prosperity, they are talking about fighting graft. All these are very good things, things that keep Kenya down. And if we were to even do a third of what the 9-point agenda they have, Kenya would go very far. It's in this regard that I would want to encourage Kenyans not to be diverted. These dynamics that we are seeing in Jubilee and in NASA and others should not distract us from the most important things. I must also add my voice to the fight that the president has mounted on stemming graft, because it's true, the major thing that's been holding us back for all of these years, there are three: impunity, number one; corruption, number two; and Ukabila, number three. If we slay those dragons, Kenya will go very far.
Let's say from Samuel Poghisio this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Debarl, and good morning, viewers. The first of all, let me before I proceed with that, really on a very urgent matter, wish this MCA from Baringo well. I hope he is safe and that the police, the government is doing everything to release him, find him, and free him from those who abducted him. I am very perturbed by the turn of events. As you see, the pressure and the heat coming in, it's like one side is of our Jubilee Party is fighting the other, and of course this meeting tomorrow, as we are going to see, is actually it's not very good. I think that we all need to come to a point of understanding. You all know the shortest definition of communication is creating understanding. So we need to come to a point of understanding. What is this handshake all about? What was it all purposed to do? Do we believe in this handshake? Instead of politicizing it and making it look like it is designed for 2022.
Yes.
This has come out very clearly, very clearly, that the handshake was not about 2022. The president said it, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga said it, And we believe them, and we believe how genuine the handshake was. The other thing that you have mentioned very clearly is that the handshake has calmed the country. The country was in a state of panic. And I think that it's about time that the president continued. He continues. I hope the president continues to take his stand, take his position. Honorable Raila Odinga, take his position. This is not about 2022. It's about bringing this country together. And the way I see the country has just become ready now for development. Now, when the country is ready for development, we also don't want this business of going about politicizing everything. You see, so instead of development, now we are doing politics every week. And now that is almost getting us to negate the effects and the impressions created about the handshake. So we have two things to do here. Declare what it is, make Kenyans understand, create understanding in all Kenyans so that we know what this handshake is about, make it plain, and please discourage this every week politics, which is creating division in the country, trying to negate what we've done. We need to do that.
So it seems then we have a problem with the handshake itself, because even for that particular team that we know that has been installed, and this will know the deliberation will take almost 1 good year. We cannot afford to be silent on what they are doing and maybe to get adapted on what they're doing for 1 good year, because we can see when we read all these dailies, they're saying, of course, this is emanating from the handshake, that MPs demand urgent meeting chaired by the president over the March the 9th handshake. So it seems there is a poor communication also that is coming as far as that team is concerned. Maybe we need to be having, once maybe in a month or once in a bi-monthly, a communique that is coming from them to just brief Kenyans on what is really happening with the handshake. We cannot afford to be mealy-mouthed for 1 good year, yet we can see rift and fissures are developing within the Jubilee Party. Don't you think so? Right? The handshake itself is what is emanating and bringing all these problems. So we're not really solving the problem, but maybe also that wound is festering right now.
I would agree with you without equivocation, because that's correct. I mean, the team of, is it 14?
Yes.
The team of 14, although it was formed only recently, maybe they have not even had a proper secretariat created yet. But I agree with you that they should give us, from time to time, communiques to let us know what they are doing, how far they've gone. Because the mandate that they got, the 9-point agenda that they got from the president and from Right Honorable Raila Odinga after the handshake is important to all of us. And I think it's important that they do not sit on it. They should have a spokesperson who from time to time will tell us what direction they are taking. Yes. I remember Right Honorable Raila Odinga saying that it's not about, some people are talking about that there should be a referendum before 2022, isn't it? Yes. Others are saying there's not going to be a referendum. Yes. But I liked it very much when Raila said that, listen, let's not talk about the referendum now. We have given a mandate to this group of 14. Let them come up with proposals of what it is that they think we should do, and then we shall agree on whether or not it should be done. I think that would be the right position to take. But yes, I agree with you 100% that this team should have a spokesperson who from time to time should be able to tell Kenyans, this is how far we've gone with the 9-point agenda, and this is what we are hoping to do next week, and we shall be reporting back and letting you know what direction we are taking. I think it's important. But if we wait for 6 months without hearing from them, and then suddenly they emerge and tell us this is what we are doing, I mean, it's like we shall be starting from square one.
Looking at the front page of what we have on the Star today, and especially this sentiment, if at all they're coming from the legislators, we have on top there, the flag reading that ICC Kikuyu MP Kimani Ichung'wah claims the group that took Ruto to ICC has regrouped. You can see this telling headline as well. Ruto allies, these are the people against DP. State House sources say the Tuesday meeting will only discuss MP's role in the Big Four agenda. But of course, this will be also the elephant in the room as well. We can see Joseph Kinyua, who's the head of public service, also Kinuthia Mbugua, who's the State House comptroller, and Karanja Kibiso, he's the principal secretary interior right now. And allegations like this, when we have legislators saying that, yes, we have a group of MPs that are regrouping, that took Ruto to the ICC. We have cases also of MPs saying, yes, we know certain legislators from the office of the president who are against the deputy president, And of course, this rift is widening. The chasm is widening and widening. Do you think this is uncalled for right now, especially from members of parliament that we consider them to be very reasonable and should not be uttering such, such sentiments, especially in light of where we're coming from as a country, from a polarized election that we had just recently. Even our memories, well, lest we forget on what we went through, the harrowing torture of the 2007 post-election violence.
Debarl, I may not be competent to talk about the operatives, the senior ones at State House and so on and so forth, but allow me to talk about that last point you mentioned, where we're coming from.
Yes, please.
Kenyans tend to forget very fast. To a number of Kenyans, they've moved on. They don't realize the magnitude of the problem we had as of, say, October last year,
yes,
December, even up to January this year. It was really, really bad. People were cancelling flights, traveling into Kenya because of the situation. So it was really dicey. But again, Kenyans move on and forget like nothing has happened. It's vital that we fix this problem we had when the selling is still calm. So this is the right time, a national dialogue, and some of us have been talking very consistently. The three here have been talking about national conversation to fix this problem that we have. And I wanted to concur when you raised the issue of the 14-member committee. I am alive, like many Kenyans know. Last week, actually, they had a retreat, I think at the Bomas of Kenya. I believe that they will, at the right time, be briefing Kenyans on what they discussed. But the good news to Kenyans is that civil society is also not sitting back. We're not just waiting for the government effort, what we call the BBI, the Building Bridges Initiative. We also have a civil society effort, which is premised on 4 principles. The first one is that it has to be all-inclusive. We recognize that it's not just for the 2 principles or the 14-member committees to determine the destiny of Kenya.
Yes.
It's got to be all-inclusive. Secondly, we are saying it's got to be homegrown.
Yes.
It's got to be Kenya-led. So, of course, we recognize Kenya is not an island. We're part of a global community of nations.
Yes.
So our development partners have also to participate because they're stakeholders. Thirdly, we recognize that it must be people-centered. So it's not just about creating jobs and so on and so forth, but whatever is going to happen in transforming Kenya must be people-centered. And finally, we are saying our effort as National Mediation Forum, that it has to be BBI-aligned. BBI, it has to work in tandem with what the 14-member committee is doing. I'm glad to report that the religious leaders, civil society, private sector, KEPSA and all are already working together. And I can assure the nation that before end of this month,
yes,
something is going to come out to reinforce what the 14 members committee is doing. So national conversation is the way to go. These distractions of the DP and 2022, for me, the less we talk about them, the better for this country.
All right, so maybe a point of interest, what is BBI? It is
BBI is the
running way over my head.
The Building Bridges Initiative that was
Bridges.
signed between President Kenyatta and the Right Honorable Raila.
Oh, the BBI, okay, thank you very much. Let's hear from Honorable Poghisio.
Yes, just to support what Ochuodho is saying, and we must not lose focus of the fact that the war against corruption has begun. And the fact that the strategies to defeat that war have also begun. And so the distractions are designed and spanned every week to derail from the previous one. And we need to keep focus on where we started on this war, and the president needs to keep focus on that, so that these other things, side shows, don't distract the main agenda for corruption. And tell you that we are almost being forced to forget about NYS already. We are almost being forced now about even the sugar.
Yes.
Because every week something else is thrown at us, so that you're now chewing that one. When you're chewing that, the others you're forgetting. And before you go very far, another one is thrown at you to distract you from the focus. And so I'm hoping that these things become exposed. About the 14-team member team, and it's true.
Yes.
People must be given an idea what they are doing behind the scenes, so that it's seen that it's above board. It is not aligned to any particular political side. It is actually a well-designed group that can come up with solutions for us. And I think they're just off to a good start. The first retreat, and I think that they're going to then begin to form, I've been at least made aware that public participation is crucial, and they'll have to participate and so on. So I'm hoping that as we go forward,
yes,
we do not forget the building blocks towards the fight, not only against corruption, but against tribalism and against impunity generally. Because Debarl, if you look at how people in this country who have made their wealth somehow without people understanding. The arrogance and the things they talk about today. It's like you need to be like this so that you can actually be somebody. And you know, we want that not to enter into our young people. We want our young people to realize that you can actually be successful without going through this.
Right. Welcome back. You're watching This Is the Point here on AM Live. We continue our pace with our conversation here on mending the Jubilee rift. Tomorrow is a big day for the Jubilee Party. The parliamentarians will be meeting at the House on the Hill to try and solve Jubilee matters. Of course, they're saying also Big Four agenda will be on top of the agenda tomorrow. We're here to see that as well. So this morning, we continue with the conversation about that lifestyle audit and what also is stripping off the tongues of some of the legislators as far as 2022 elections is concerned, and this chasm that is widening within the Jubilee Party as well. Let's come back to you, Senator Kembi Gitura. First of all, when we're talking about picking, that particular scab on 2007, 2007 post-election violence, do you think this particular sentiment that is on the front page of the Star, where we can see the flag reading, you may just have that particular paper, the ICC debate coming to the fore and what we went through, do you think this is very inconsiderate of Kimani Ichung'wah himself?
What has he said?
We have it there. On top, you have the flag, and you have the ICC
these are the people
there.
against the DP.
Yes.
You see, now, when well, I don't know, I haven't read that headline, so I don't know whether Kimani Ichung'wah has talked about the ICC.
On top there, we have the flag. You can see it says Kikuyu MP Kimani Ichung'wah claims the group that took Ruto to ICC has regrouped.
You see now, what's happening there, I hadn't seen that, but that is totally in tandem what I had said earlier, what we had said earlier, actually. These are fearmongers. See? ICC was a very emotional matter.
Yes.
And ICC remains a very emotional matter. I want to believe that matter is behind us. I do not believe it's going to be reopened myself, and because I cannot see how it will be reopened in the future. People argue that there's still a window for it to be reopened, but as a lawyer, I don't see it being reopened. But that we shall wait and see. But when people like Kimani Ichung'wah and others start bringing up the issues of ICC, you see, they're trying to whip up emotions. And the reason is only one. It is premised on their argument that the handshake is trying to sidestep the succession politics of 2022.
Yes.
That's what they're trying to do. And if this line continues, fear-mongering, what's going to happen is that it is going to become the topic of the day. We are going to be talking about it every day until we near the elections, when then the president would have become almost lame duck because there'll be nothing more to do. We shall then be going down the lane towards the elections. But the biggest topic in our country today, the whole of the nation, from all the corners of the nation, is corruption. Right? It's corruption. It's about this sugar, the contraband and fake sugar that is coming here with contaminated. It's about the NYS. It's about Ministry of Health. It's about the billions of shillings that everybody is talking about. Billions of shillings which should have been going to certain, doing certain things. And they want to cloud this thing in such a way that we will not be talking about it. Like Senator Poghisio just said, already, people are almost not talking about sugar and those are and the corruption of NYS, because all we are hearing about is every weekend people are all over the place in the whole country. You don't even know how they travel.
Yes.
You don't know when they work in their own constituencies, because every weekend they're all over the place and they're talking about sensational things. This one fighting that one, ICC and what have you. So that on Monday, that's the first thing we read in the papers, and then we continue to talk about this the whole week until they get to the weekend again. And this cycle, what it's going to do is to stifle the argument on corruption. Like I said, I want to hope and believe that His Excellency the President is not going to be to be moved from off track from the issue of corruption, because like a lot of people have said, like I have said, like you have said, this could be his biggest legacy. That he fought corruption in his final term, and that he put Kenya on a track of a corruption-free country, or substantially corruption-free country, and that therefore he has recreated, the growth in the country. Now we're hoping to grow at 5.8% from 4.9%. I mean, if we cannot. There's no way we are going to reach 5.8% when these wrangles are going on. Yeah. If you read the papers, you find that even the Financial Times of London is talking about this. They're talking about devolution and how well it has done for this country, and how the politics of the day can distract us from that growth, so that the projected 5.8% growth, we may not achieve it at the rate we are going with these corruption issues and all this politicking that we are doing. But the Financial Times does seem to recognize, from what I've read in the papers this morning, that the handshake between the president and Raila Odinga has done a lot in calming the nerves in the country, and helping tourism and other things, investment prospects, and therefore helping the economy to grow. If we keep at this, we are going to be at 5.8, maybe 6%, which is good for the economy, because this creates employment.
So the handshake has calmed nerves in the country, but it has not calmed nerves within Jubilee Party. First of all, do you think maybe also this particular lifestyle audit, because the MPs are saying it's targeting Ruto himself and all the schemes and the lifestyle audit, there is no also legal framework for it. Do you think then Ruto is actually an impediment and a tripping wire to Uhuru achieving his legacy, of having a sterling, a job being done, especially on fighting corruption?
Debarl, we're operating in a constitutional dispensation slightly different from the past. In the past, the head of state had the latitude, of course, to pick and fire his deputy anytime he so wished. We do know that, of course, the deputy president has got security of tenure in that regard, of course, unless Parliament does impeach him, which could easily happen, and we have seen some talks about that. But in the circumstances, whatever it is that's going on in Jubilee, and I'm not privy to it, for me, I think is a distraction. I would rather we grab that moment of March 9th, because it's what brought us the tranquility that we currently enjoy. And Kenyans need to religiously, as my colleagues have said, religiously protect it. There are, even though we belabor about problems that we have, allow me to mention two solutions, some of which we have also been talking about on this platform before. We've, as a group called Tushauriane, we've been saying there are 6 points to address to resolve our issues. Let me just talk of two. One, and I'm worried when I see the problem in Tiati, with this disappearing of the MCA, we've said sanctity of life and addressing national security reforms. These extrajudicial killings must stop. Because if they don't stop, how do we know that a whistleblower today is going to disappear tomorrow? So I think as a matter of importance, the government must we must respect the sanctity of life, we must respect the rule of law, this disappearance, extrajudicial killings and so on, and particularly when police are being accused, it's very dangerous. In fact, it's so fearful to the extent that even none lesser than the CS in charge of Interior was on record to say, I'm going to fight the contraband people, even if it means some of us will die. Our forefathers died in effort to bring the independence of this country. Now, when even the CS is talking about that, this is the one to guarantee our security. Clearly, that's an area that government needs to focus on. Secondly, is the area of electrical reforms. And let me single out one particular thing, which I think we need to do now when the selling is still smooth. The capping of electoral finance. What drives this corruption is big money politics. We know there is that law which was passed by Parliament, which capped the money you can spend on campaigning and so on and so forth. Of course, the figures for me and many Kenyans were too high. When you talk of billions, then how many Kenyans can run for office with those billions? I think that's something we need to bring back. Let Parliament relook at it. Let's have more realistic figures and implement it. Then it will reduce the appetite of stealing. I think for me, those are two practical things that could be done now. We would have achieved something when the tranquility prevails.
Right. Thank you for those sentiments about Tushauriane and the initiatives. But the question is, again, to you. Right. Do you think the Deputy President is actually an impediment, a tripping wire to Uhuru Kenyatta realizing, is a legacy for a prosperous country in fighting corruption?
Debarl, I don't have facts, but the guilty are always afraid. So in this particular regard, I know there have been mentions of the deputy and other people around him, but I think if, I like the deputy has said when the president said, I'm ready for the lifestyle audit. He also said the same. I am really hoping that our leaders are genuine in this regard. And this is why I'm saying, let Kenyans hijack this, put it against them. Say, you have said, I'm ready for this lifestyle audit. Let's go through it so that we see, it may even help. If they are clean, it may help them also so that they're not, these perceptions that are there, it could also help clear them. So I think for me, I'd encourage that lifestyle audit. It's vital that people narrate whatever wealth they have, how they acquired it. I think, and also, I think an amount of forensic or science needs to be applied here. I know when we are told 100 million shillings has disappeared, money can't just disappear without being able to trace it. Forensic auditors would be able to trace that money. It moved from this account to that account. And then, so I don't really know, even when we talk of losing money in government, really, if we applied our scientists, our auditors, particularly the forensic scientists, they should be able to locate where that money has gone. But part of that is tied with the lifestyle audits.
All right. Senator Poghisio, you think actually you are one of the people that will be heading to State House tomorrow, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think the president, deputy president, is being targeted in any way, as some of the legislators from your camp are saying?
I think the other question that you asked before probably is easier to explain.
Which one?
Everyone's forgetting so fast, Debarl, very fast. We're forgetting that before the handshake, even this weekend forays would not have been taken or done. These shoutings about who is being targeted and so on could not have been done because before the handshake, the country was divided.
True.
So we forget so quickly that the handshake actually healed all this and gave us the opportunity and the atmosphere to even run around every weekend. It is the people who do that forget so quickly. So our main focus should be let's track our successes from the day, the 9th of March, when the handshake happened publicly, so that we know that quietened everything and created an atmosphere where Kenyans were beginning to trust government. So it doesn't matter whether it's a deputy president or the president doing this or not. Those are just, in my view, two sides of the same coin. And it doesn't matter. So who is doing what? But I think there's only one president in the country. His legacy is the one that matters. And if the president then chooses that to achieve my legacy, this is a way forward. And I think that it's up to the deputy to follow.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's hear from the sentiment that is coming also from the church and the laity, especially with the canon of the National Council of Churches as well, that is the Canon Karanja. And then we shall also explore much deeper of what actually he's saying.
Let's protect the NCCK from taking a very partisan political position. There are a few dangers on the way. Because the handshake appears to completely stand in the way of Ruto. So if you love Ruto that much, reinterpret the handshake. And explore keenly what are its total ramifications. If Raila is re-engineering himself through the handshake, and it is very likely, he is likely through it to cause major havoc on Ruto's design and scheme. But another Jogo has emerged in the Rift Valley called Gideon, who is very rich because he is part of the dynasties. And his father doesn't like Ruto at all. Even when Ruto tried to visit, say hello to mzee and pole kwa sababu ya maumivu ya magoti, he was not allowed to.
Well, sentiments coming from, of course, a clergy, really uncalled for. Maybe your panelists will weigh on this as well. It seems he has much information than most of you does, as far as also, you know, the affinity and affection that maybe the former president really has about, Deputy President William Ruto as well. But really coming from the church and knowing that this is actually the voice of the church, maybe speaking on behalf of the National Council of Churches of Kenya. And I know most of also maybe some of the church leaders are not really also supporting his sentiment as well. Maybe he's speaking as a canon himself. What do you weigh in as far as the sentiments are coming from a church leader, especially in a very polarized political environment that we do have right now as far as 2022 is concerned, Kembi?
Interesting question. First thing I'd like to say is this. If I go back just so that I can build up on this issue about lifestyle audits, right? I think people need to understand that lifestyle audit is not about declaration of wealth. When we are public servants, like Poghisio is now, Senator Poghisio is now, I'm sure he has declared his wealth and it's been sealed in an envelope which is kept in the safe somewhere in the in Parliament, which is ridiculous.
Yes.
Because I've never heard of any envelope opened to check on then what Senator Poghisio has gained or lost in 2 years' time. So lifestyle audit is not about declaration of wealth. It's about declaration of how you have attained that wealth. And this is going to affect a lot of people, because I'm sure a lot of cabinet secretaries and other people in senior positions in government, if they are told to open that envelope and then they think that people don't know what they own. The president said, candidly, he said, don't register that kind of name of your wife or the name of your husband, as the case may be, because we shall know, or your child. And then you shall be asked, how did you manage to get all this wealth? That's the question. And wealth is not bad. Wealth is very good. Everybody aspires to becoming wealthy. The question is, how did you get it? So these are the questions that are going to be asked. So I think this issue, the word forensic that was used by Dr. Ochuodho, working backwards, is important, and it must be done, and it must start to be done so that people have faith in this. Now, about canon...
Yeah, before we go to canon, maybe a question on that, because yes, we have all this wealth being declared, and then we have them enclosed in an envelope.
Yes, sealed.
So what we are sealed?
It's ridiculous.
The
idea was this, that you declare your wealth by a month a date in November of the second year.
Yes.
And then you say, I have this, I have the other one. Then you set all of them down, then it is witnessed, and then it is sealed, given to the Speaker's office or the Clerk's office, and then it is kept. And so with other public servants, it's kept. The idea was that after 2 years, it would be opened, and then would see what it is that you have gained or lost. If you have gained something there, then if it is inordinate with what you earn, then you might be asked to say how did you get it? And that is the purpose of lifestyle audit. And this lifestyle audit is within the EACC laws. So it's not like a new law should be formulated. Maybe fine-tuned, yes, but the law is there. We are not lacking in legal, in law on these issues. So it's there. So this thing about sealing an envelope and keeping it there is fine, because that's what the law says. But when is it going to be opened? When was any of them opened, so that we know what it is that Shem Ochuodho, assuming is a public servant, has gained? So these are important issues.
Right, but clarity for me. So this, because you say declaring wealth and of course lifestyle audit, this is, there are two dramatically different issues that we're talking about.
They are very different. Because
Where do we have the sealing of the envelope?
We see then
Is this when you declare your wealth?
When you declare your wealth, you sit alone and you declare your wealth. You say, I own this house in Murang'a. I also own this house in Nairobi. I also own this motor vehicle. I own these shares in this company or the other. You do all that, then it is witnessed, then you seal it. It's taken to the Speaker's office, when I was a member of Parliament. It's given a serial number, and that's the last you hear. They should return mine now, because I'm not there. They don't need it. But the idea was, and it was a good idea, the idea was that you do that every 2 years, yeah? And if you lie, is an offense punishable by law. If you lie about, if you give false information, is an action, is punishable by law if you are proved. But since none of those envelopes has been opened, at least I don't know any that was open to see what else that you have acquired thereafter, to me it makes no sense at all. But it will be very useful now if the cabinet secretaries have made that declaration, and then one cabinet secretary or the other is suspected of acquiring wealth outside the law, so that because we know he or she has bought a house of 200 million shillings, and then he's made to open the envelope and then to explain, this house was not there 2 years ago among your wealth, right? He says yes. So let's know now how you acquired it. Show us where you got the mortgage, because it's a government mortgage. We know it's 20 million, maybe 40 million maximum. If it's a mortgage from the bank and you borrowed 20 million shillings, 100 million shillings, 200 million shillings, we want to see how you're financing it, because your salary is not financing it, cannot finance it. So show us those other businesses. If you did not disclose those other businesses in the sealed envelope, then you have committed an offense, because you told lies, you gave false information. And what needs to happen to you if you're a cabinet secretary, you should not be made to step down. You should be made to resign, because you cannot have a cabinet secretary or a permanent secretary, a principal secretary, or a government officer who is not able to tell the truth in matters of public interest, or in matters which have to be dealt with within the law. I don't know whether we are clear. So the envelope is the sealed envelope is very important, because it forms the basis upon which then you are interrogated on what you have acquired since you sealed that envelope.
Right.
But since you have not had any of them opened, that's the reason I say that to me it looks quite...
and you preempted my next question, maybe just clarity as well. Suppose, because this web is actually cast for the public servant, isn't it, for the civil servants. Suppose I choose to resign as a public official before this particular exercise begins, then what?
The sins you committed are not...
Does the law also still extend?
The sins you committed are not forgiven by reason of that. You must live by what you have done, and the law will catch up with you, and you must explain. That's why you're seeing cabinet secretaries who are not in office, they are still being pursued. That's why you're seeing permanent secretaries who are not in office are still being pursued, because the issues, the thefts they committed, or the misappropriations they committed, were when they were public servants.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Yes,
sorry?
I hope you're not losing the...
Yeah, I'm not losing it. I'm not losing it. So I want to come back to him and comment now on canon.
Right.
The church plays a very, very central role in society, in any society. And when the Catholic bishop, for instance, says he will not, his diocese, the churches in his diocese will not accept donations from politicians because they are not able to explain how they got that money. And I think that's what Bishop Kariuki of the Catholic Diocese of Embu had said not so long ago. If he says that, then he must follow through with that. But if that story narrative changes, then the flock that follows that bishop in that diocese lose faith, because then they do not know what to believe in anymore. So it's important that if Bishop Kariuki, for instance, of the Catholic Diocese, is a very respected person, if he made that statement about corruption and donations, he must follow through with that. Because people go to church on Sunday to be strengthened spiritually, so they can follow through the next weeks. So if Canon Peter Karanja now tells us is doing an analysis of the politics of Kenya in public,
yes,
I don't know how that assists the flock in the church. Because it appeared from the clip that you played, maybe it was out of context, because it was short. I don't know how he concluded his story. But you see, if his narrative seems to plant seeds of discord or misunderstanding among the people, like he talks about Gideon Moi being very wealthy because of this and the other one. I don't know whether he's supporting Gideon Moi or not, or whether he's fighting Gideon Moi. When he talks about Deputy President Ruto being fought because of this handshake, I don't know again how he is helping in the flock. He's doing a political analysis, it appears to me. I don't know whether it's biblical, he's doing a political analysis. I don't know whether the correct forum for a canon, who is the Secretary General of the National Christian Council of Kenya, is the correct NCCK, is the correct thing to do, because he wears very many hats. First and foremost, he is clergy in the Anglican Church. So people will follow him by dint of his being a clergyman. Then he's the Secretary General of NCCK, so he's supposed sometimes to make policy decisions, to be the spokesman on policy decisions. If that is the position of the NCCK, then those of us that belong to the churches that form NCCK should be made to know that that's the policy, that's the line they are taking, so that we are able to interrogate it ourselves. But if he was talking himself as Canon Peter Karanja, again we need to know, because that's a different hat, because we cannot follow blindly. And we also can make political analysis. It is where you make your political analysis that matters a lot, because people view you according to the background or to how you're coming in to make that analysis. So I don't know whether it is in context, I don't know if it's complete, or you just showed us a short clip.
Yes.
But the interpretations that will come could be quite unhelpful to some people, and maybe to those who want to hear what he said, again, they will interpret them as that they were really assisted by him in their thinking.
Let us come to Shem Ochuodho, because many people will argue that
Sure.
how can we, or maybe a clergy should not be, meddling with politics. You should not be a political analyst, and politics and
say that,
church.
by the way, eh?
Yeah, you didn't say that, I know, but many people will argue,
Sure.
and they say that politics and church, they cannot really mesh. But we cannot really uncouple also politics from the church, because also from the Bible we know also of minor prophets like Amos, the prophet, that was also much into the social issues and the social injustices all the day as well. So also the church has a voice, but really swinging the pendulum on the extreme end as well. Is that really uncalled for? I know you also are Mzee or Kanisa.
Yes.
I don't know if you still are.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, a deacon.
A deacon.
In the Adventist church. I was before I went to politics, but I still subscribe to those ideals. Allow me to say we work with Canon Karanja on the DCG, the Dialogue Contact Group, this multi-sectoral forum that's trying to push for national conversation. I respect him a lot, and I am usually slow to criticize what he says, because often he makes what looks like controversial, but at some point they turn out to be true. I have in mind, he's one of also the first leaders who talked about national conversation, the president and the former prime minister having a conversation, dialogue, when things were pretty hot. He is also one of those people, I think he has called for amnesty in the fight against graft. And this is something that's very unpopular, I would believe, with Kenyans. A senior vice chancellor designate, because he didn't allow me to mention, believes that that's going to be the only way to stem graft, that let's have amnesty, let's have this national conversation. People say this is what somebody took wrongly from government. They need to be forgiven, they need to refund, and so on and so forth. So there is, he premises, now talking of the vice chancellor, he says that all other methods we have tried to fight graft have not worked. So maybe it's time that amnesty be considered as part of truth and justice, so that we get back, if we lost 1 billion shillings or whatever, or 100 million shillings, people can be told bring back 90 million. Because also he reasons that if you tell people to bring the entire 100 million, it may not be practical, in as much as it's a popular thing to say, let's get back the entire amount and even with interest. But in reality, it may not work. So in that regard, Canon Karanja has talked about amnesty, which is very unpopular. But I think people shouldn't dismiss it outright without analyzing it, whether it can work or not realistically. But coming to the point where he talks about the DP, the chair of KANU and so on, I think he's contradicting himself, because he says the church cannot be partisan. But clearly when he's talking, he's appearing partisan. So that's what I would hold against him. But rather than, again, as Mheshimiwa Kembi has said, I would want to know in what context was he saying this? Was it out of gist? What did he really want to say? But obviously the church participating in politics and leadership. We've had clergy. One of his predecessors, Reverend Mutava Musimi, ended up being a member of parliament, and that was very much in order. So the two can go hand in hand. After all, it's God who appoints leaders, so we read from the Holy Book.
Well, I think wherever the Canon Karanja is today, he must be regretting that he made those statements. I mean, he listens to himself now. I don't think he would be very happy listening to himself say those things. In that context, for example, it was a big contradiction, a very big contradiction. And I think I have never heard him be that reckless in his statements. I think he's always been a voice of reason. And now here he's giving a lesson to senior clergy, very senior people, giving a lesson and absolutely dividing the people. Because in those statements, that was very divisive, totally divisive. And so I would suspect that that was not meant for the media. I think that he was probably trying to speak off the cuff, and as usual, the microphones were somewhere, and cameras were still pointing. It wasn't meant really, because that to me, because if the way he spoke, for example, about Gideon Moi, you can almost tell he doesn't like Gideon Moi. Because first of all, he talks about him being wealthy. He didn't say about the other guy's wealth, and so on. So I think all those things that he spoke there, it was like giving a Sunday school lesson to very senior people. And he just needs to know that it wasn't in good faith, whatever he is. So I'm sure he's regretting. Canon is regretting what he said yesterday.
Yes.
And you saw bishops studiously taking notes in that clip.
Yes.
They're taking notes seriously, studiously, so that maybe they can reanalyze it, you know, to their people when they go back to their dioceses. Maybe so they can maybe because so that they can propagate it.
Yes.
You know. So I would like to know the context.
All right, but we should also discuss, because I think also there has been we know about the sanctity of the altar.
There was something.
Right? We know, yes.
There was something that makes him contradict himself. He said, "Let's protect NCCK from politics, from partisanship," and then he goes. And then he goes on.
That's what I'm saying.
He goes on to be
actually
partisan.
going, you know, swinging all the way the pendulum on the extreme ends.
Extremely.
And by the way,
I didn't want to say this, but I'm not sure Canon Karanja comes from that area. He could be the next governor designate for that area. So he wasn't probably talking to the Kenyan citizenry. He was addressing the community.
He was addressing.
But you're a leader wherever you speak. You speak for the country, you know.
Well,
you're a leader. We take you.
I think
especially the office that you hold yourself.
Yeah.
You being the canon and the
Sure.
chair of the National Council of Churches of Kenya.
But
we know that's the umbrella, and that will be the collective voice of the churches.
That's right, Debarl. I'm not even saying the canon is going to run for office. But in the event that he's thinking of that, he's probably trying to impress his constituents. That and maybe he knows his constituents are pro the DP. Who knows? But again, as others are saying, maybe this is something that came out without him meaning to say it. But it's for him to clarify.
But I think this was a very good, handy opportunity for us to discuss, especially where the church is and the politicization of the pulpit, where we see politicians are being given pulpit also to, you know, trip off some things from their mouth that are really uncalled for even in church. You know, that will be another place where maybe it will be a chopping block to try and obliterate someone politically. You know, we've had that from here in Nairobi. The sanctity of the altar is actually being abused by some of the church and the laity that we do have also nowadays. So where is a place of a church in making sure that, you know, that place that we know, we hear the word of God from, is a sacrilegious place, that there should be some decorum, there should be some order. Not every Tom, Dick and Harry can be allowed just on the altar. And the person that we elected to be the pastor, the bishop, then should also make sure that, yes, the purity of the altar also is maintained. I think we're losing a plot as far as the church is concerned, aren't we? I don't know. The people who are religious here say amen.
Amen. Amen. And you know that forum, and unless I didn't see the rest of the people, that forum was made up of clergy.
Yes, the clergy, yes.
Okay, the clergy, and the very senior ones, by the way, very senior ones. And imagine, within that short time, we didn't hear anything from the Bible, okay? It was all about William Ruto, about Gideon Moi, about the handshake, in such a light as to make it look like the subject matter was being trivialized about the handshake. And I think we should come back to the point that the handshake is not something to be trivialized. The handshake is not about what Canon is talking about. The handshake is more than that. And then, of course, you know, the other thing which I thought was disdain was the way he spoke about the retired President Moi. I mean, how would you know that Moi hates Ruto?
True.
Because Moi never spoke.
Yeah, and that is such a strong verbiage.
It's actually, that's
using the word hate as well is really uncalled for, I think.
Very uncalled for. Everything he said there was totally uncalled for.
You know, to answer your question about the church.
Yes, please.
If you allow me.
Please.
The church is very, very important. And I do not myself believe that, I don't believe that you can separate politics from the church. Because the church, as far as I know, is the conscience of the people, helps a lot in creating the conscience of the people. And if you are not there in the 90s, Debarl, but some of us were. And it is people like the late bishops Okulu, Bishop Muge, Alexander Kipsang Arap Muge, and people like that Bishop David Gitari,
yes.
People like late John Gatu of the PCA, people like Dr. Joya of the PCA also, and people like those, and there are many.
Yes.
It is those people in the 90s who brought common sense and dialogue to this country. Some of them like Okulu, or even like Joya, current, who is with us.
Yes.
they suffered so much. I don't know whether you have the photograph of Joya being beaten up by goons outside Parliament. They're the people, they helped us so much gain sense in the 90s, leading to the second liberation, when people like Kenneth Matiba, Charles Rubia,
yes,
and people like Martin Shikuku and others were so involved in the creation of the new constitution that we have now. So the church is so important, it cannot be taken for granted. Because what the clergy stand for, and what Bishops Okulula and the ones I mentioned stood for, and stood in the pulpit at Austin's Cathedral, at St. Stephen Cathedral in Kisumu, and all those other places, and said what they had to say then, galvanized this nation. And it helped change this nation. So what the bishop or the clergy say from the pulpit makes a lot of difference. So if a clergyman stands at the pulpit, particularly a bishop of whatever church,
Canon, yeah.
and makes a canon, and makes a statement which can appear to be divisive, that they are taking a position, not talking about the general principle of what needs to be achieved, but they are taking a position, then that matters a lot. That matters a lot, and that's the question now. That now brings the question that you asked, whether the churches, the altar should be used in this form. The altar is very important. Yes, it can be used very positively, but yes, like it was by the bishops I've mentioned, the late Archbishop David Gitari, Bishop Okulu, Bishop Sara Kipsang Arap Muge, people like Moderator John Kato, people like Timothy Joya, and many others like those. They've used the pulpit and they've told the people what they think should be done for nationhood. But there are those who can stand up now and make very divisive statements which are not helpful, which goes further to foment and to destroy what the handshake is trying to achieve. Because when President, and remember it was President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta who took the handshake with Raila Odinga, and he is the president. And if you don't want to, if you look at him, the president, then you know that he is the chief executive officer of this country. So he leads us. We have given him the mandate to lead this country. He decided to have a handshake.
Yes.
We must respect that.
Okay.
On the other, and at the same time, he's the party leader for Jubilee.
Yes.
So when he made that statement, the handshake on behalf of the people of Kenya,
Yes,
whom he leads, then as a chairman of the party leader for Jubilee, and then you find people in Jubilee who appear not to toe that line, then they must be brought to order. That is what party politics is all about. That is why you see in ODM, they are saying clearly, if you don't agree with our policy, with our manifesto, then you cannot purport to be a member of our party. But because you're elected by the people on that party, what we can do to whip you or to de-whip you
Yes,
is to remove you from the committees in which you sit, courtesy of being a member of our party. That's what party politics is about,
Okay.
and that is why parliamentary group meetings are very, very important.
thank you. All right, we have callers who are hanging on the line before we come to you, Senator Poghisio, and we have Kiprono calling this morning.
Hello.
Good morning, Kiprono. Hello, good morning, Kiprono.
Hello.
Yes, morning. How are you?
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you, Kiprono. You have a question
Hello.
or a contribution?
Hello, Debarl. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. We can hear you. Continue with
How are you, sir?
Very well, thank you.
Okay, good morning to the panel,
Morning,
the
sir.
team. Okay, my question is, I don't have a question, but I want just to comment about some issues
Yes, please.
which you have discussed.
Yes.
And I appreciate the fact that all the panelists you have are politicians.
Yes, please.
So therefore, I want to begin with maybe political. There is what we call handshake. First of all, I support the handshake, the way the panelists have just analyze it well.
Yes.
It's a good idea for the country. Looking back to where we have come from before in our elections. Now,
Yes.
but there is also a reason which I want to comment about political betrayals before. So
Yes.
when you see the Ruto's allies panicking about the 2022 elections, I can confirm that all these leaders who are your panels, they know very well
Yes.
that in our history, political history, there have been betrayals. If you look at 2002, Raila supported Kibaki. What happened later? He was betrayed.
Yes.
In 2007, Raila ran for the presidency. There was a lot of violence. There was a mediation team by Kofi Annan. There was a power sharing deal. There was a unitary government.
Yes.
And after that, there was betrayal also. Raila was being curtailed by civil servants, powerful civil servants. So when I look at the headline in the Star,
Yes.
I confirm that it is true what is happening they are trying to do to Ruto, those civil servants, Kinyua and others. You remember Mudaura versus Raila, who was holding power, who is wielding power, is it the premier or is Mudaura? You know, so now, these things, there is a lot of, this handshake idea is not actually a problem. It's not a problem. But I tend to believe, even in the future, we can see also cracks in NASA about this handshake. It is not very surprising. That is my analysis.
Right, thank you.
Secondly,
Yes.
Secondly, Ruto is, I don't think Ruto is fears lifestyle audit the way people think, and even the idea of fighting corruption.
Yes.
I think the leaders are just taking it for political mischief, because at one time, you look at Raila in his capital rallies, he has been saying, this is a hustler, where did you get wealth, all this money? You know, vilifying someone, must you come from a rich family so that you can, to be seen as a leader who can, who can run for the presidency.
Thank you.
So my idea is, even Uhuru himself,
Yes.
as the president, is not competent enough to audit Ruto wealth-wise. Why am I saying so? He found Ruto
All right.
in 1992, earlier than Uhuru. He found him there. And even Kibaki, when he became the president, Ruto was already wealthy. So I don't know why even these allies are panicking about, he should accept the
Thank you.
lifestyle audit.
Thank you.
He should support President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for the interest of time. Thank you, Kiprono, for your sentiments as well. Let's just pick up on James also, who's hanging up, or hanging on the line, I should say. Good morning, James. You're not hanging up on me. Continue. We can hear you. James, good morning from Nakuru.
Hello.
Yes.
Morning.
Yeah, morning to you. Question or contribution, James?
My personal contribution is thank you very much for this lively debate.
Thank you, thank you.
I want to say the following.
Yes, please.
President Kenyatta has declared his character of leadership.
Yes.
He has chosen a handshake to be the foundation for national peace and tranquility. And that, for that to succeed, he has also picked lifestyle audit, forensic audit, to help him get the way forward.
Yes.
We should all support the president at all costs to deliver his legacy.
Yes.
Question of personal politics and tribal politics should not distract us. We should not resist the issue of ICC. That is distracting him.
Yes.
The handshake of President Kenyatta and Raila is clear. They want peace. And these are the two who stood for presidency. All of us should rally behind him and ask the president, give us the legacy you told us. That's my contribution.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you. We have also reactions here from social media. We have John Gidanga saying, if Uhuru manages to eradicate corruption, impunity, nepotism, and tribalism, the stage will be set for Kenya to start becoming a respectable nation, and Vision 2030 can start being a reality. But presently, the vision is a bridge too far. That is John Gidanga. We have Castro Dipo saying, I hope the likes of Kip Murkomen are now being schooled in law with Kembi Gitura. The lifestyle audit is anchored in law. Of course, he's also been saying that there's no legal framework for it as well. Joseph Odanga says, surely Canon Peter Karanja should be unifying factor. His comments on Moe hating Ruto was uncalled for. How I miss the likes of Bishop Muge, Okulo, and Njoya. We have also Nicholas Boro saying, it is interesting that you have a whole session based on a 30-second clip without telling us the context of the whole dialogue, right? Based on what we've just played so far. Of course, different reactions as well. Obunga Brian is saying this meeting is here to divert our attention from the war against graft. The fight against corruption is being equated to the fight against Ruto. This is where we get it wrong. Also, we have kusema na kutenda. It's unfortunate as citizens we do not advocate people like Kembi Gitura, who is against cartels and embezzling of public tax, but thought otherwise due to indoctrination of maintaining political sycophants or sycophants gratification. Also, we do have Frederick Okango saying we should start with the basics. We have audit reports from the Auditor General revealing zero accountability for funds used in government expenditure. This is a framework of lifestyle audit. And also our lawyers Kiagai saying, what initiatives every Kenyan suffer for ethical and corruption syndrome that has no cure. And those are your sentiments there. We shall be reading more and more in the course of the program. Also, we have comments also on Facebook as well. That will be much, much later in the course of the program. But hearing the reactions of Kenya, first of all, some of them are castigating us, playing only a 30-second clip and then basing all discussion on that. But no matter how you vote, you've also heard from there. There's no way you can slice it when someone is stripping off a hateful sentiment, no matter what the context.
Yeah, Debarl,
that is very, very clear. I mean, from our own point of view, yes. But we can hear from you. Let's just hear from you.
Senator did pay tribute to a number of Christian leaders who did fantastic work, just so that we are sure that there were also other religious leaders from the Muslims, from the Hindu, who did fantastic work. I allow me to mention Sheikh Balala, Sheikh Khalif, Sheikh Munir. These are people who are with us in the trenches when we're together with Dr. Njoya, Dr. William Mutunga, Professor Kibwana, and so on, to try to push for the second liberation. So it was commendable, the work they'd done. In my church, the Adventist church, what Canon Karanja did would have been considered to have crossed the red line. I think that's what I would say. But again, to be fair to him, it would be only him to clarify in what context he was saying all this. Otherwise, for the callers in, I think James made it very clear that this handshake was meant for national healing, national peace. A question that I very often ask my friends is that what should be the end game? What's the Kenya we want? What's the Kenya you want? For us to get that Kenya we all aspire for, the Kenya where young people have jobs, where people can do clean business and they become wealthy in a clean way. And in this regard, allow me also to compliment the president. I attended the American Chamber Summit in Gigiri on Thursday. The president did say the law will be there to protect the innocent while getting those who are culpable to answer for their guilt. So the law cuts both ways, and I'm hoping that that's what the courts will do. So in that regard, for us to get that Kenya we all desire, we must stem graft, we must excise this ghost of ukabila completely. And this is what I think the president and the right honorable did. In my view, initially I was giving them 50-50. Do they really mean it? But now I'm giving them 70-30. I think they're serious about it, they meant it, but I still have a 30% doubt. But my point is that even if we doubt it, it's for Kenyans to grab it and make sure we get it, because the right thing to do. Those 9-point agenda, they're the right thing to do. And I think very often I talk to professionals. Debarl, last week we had a meeting with top professionals under APSEA, which is the umbrella body of professional bodies, including top leaders of ISPAC, the accountants, the IEK, the engineers, the PICTA, the ICT professionals, and so on. And the premise was that, look, well, many were not very conversant with the 9-point agenda, which is vital that we unpack it. But they were very clear that the fight against graft is something we must all be part of, including the accountants and all the other people. The medical actors, the Kenya Medical Association, was very strongly represented.
Right. Senator Poghisio.
Yes, I just wanted to let us know that apart from what Canon Karanja said here, it should not be lost that he is usually not the kind of person who says those things. And I think that when he says those things, it comes out very bad. Because I know that when he was in All Saints Cathedral and when he was even he became Secretary General of NCCK, he has fought against all these kind of vices. So I hope that he'll find himself a chance to defend himself on that matter and to clear the air about what he said there. But I keep saying that let's never lose sight of that handshake. Let's never lose sight of the purpose for which the handshake was in the first place displayed to all of us.
All right.
And I think we should just keep that at the back of our minds.
All right. So your takeaway point this morning is what? As far as the handshake is concerned, let's not lose sight of it.
Yes.
But should there be a proper communique also from the people who are constituted to try and make sure the handshake really works with the 14-point agenda?
Yeah, that's why I gave that simple definition of communication.
Thank you.
It creates understanding. Let people understand. Let people understand. Make it clear. Let's have the same meaning of this thing.
Thank you.
For all of us, yes.
Thank you very much. Kembi Gitura, your closing remarks. What's your point this morning?
First and foremost, I've always taken the view that there is more that joins us than divides us as Kenyans. And if you look behind tribe, you find that there is nothing. You find that it is politics and politicians who make us appear like we are different.
Yes.
And that is why building bridges is important, because if you go back on memory lane, I remember the president telling us in Murang'a during the funeral of the late icon Kenneth Matiba, and also Right Honorable Raila Odinga also saying it at the same funeral, that when they met, they went down memory lane, where they have come from, where they are at, and when the rain started beating them. And when they realized that it is their parents who are the first, you know, really the first people in this country, they were the main people in this movement, with the President Kenyatta as the original Kenyatta as the president, and Jaramogi as the vice president.
Thank you.
You know, when they went down that lane and asked themselves, where did we come from? Why do we, as the scions of these two great people, why are we going to be the people who have a legacy of having brought this country to its knees? I think that's when they found that they need to sit and talk and discuss these issues. The reason I'm bringing that in is because
30 seconds.
the reason I'm bringing that is because for anybody who has read the history of Kenya, you know that Jaramogi also stood very firmly with Kenyatta in 1960-61, when he said that no Kenyatta from out of detention, no independence. That's when he declined to be the prime minister, when he was offered that by the governor. So I think we've come a very long distance, and we can cover that distance. And the thing we need to remove is this suspicions that we have against one tribe against the other.
Thank you.
Because at the end of the day, we are one people, and like I said, there is much more that joins us than divides us as a people of this country.
Thank you very much.
Debarl, my
Shem.
30 seconds, I associate with the sentiments of Senator Kembi Gitura. I'll dedicate my 30 seconds to Chief Inspector Mutune on Langata Road. This is our senior police officer who has been guiding traffic. I was able to get here on time because of the work he does. This guy literally pulls vehicles. I really wish Kenyan leaders could be like this. I remember once we used to have somebody on Jogo Road called Inspector Sang. This Chief Inspector Mutume is doing similar, and I've had many users of that road, Langata Road. The traffic has really improved, the flow of traffic, because of the self-sacrifice
Thank you.
of this one man.
Thank you. Ambassador